Fade in Act 1, The Golden Hour. EXT, Sunset Boulevard, night 1957. The street glows like a promise. Neon signs flicker against the darkening sky, reds and blues and golds that paint the sidewalks in electric dreams. Palm trees sway overhead, their fronds rustling secrets that only Los Angeles understands. Cars with chrome grills and tail fins cruise past, their occupants dressed for the kind of evening that exists only in movies or memories. This is Hollywood at its most intoxicating. The golden age hasn't started to tarnish yet. The studios still run this town like kingdoms, and the men who appear on silver screens live like royalty. In Villa Capri Restaurant, continuous. Inside one of Sunset Boulevard's most exclusive establishments, the air tastes expensive. Cigarette smoke curls upward from crystal ashtrays, twisting through beams of amber light that fall from ornate chandeliers. The crowd here doesn't come for food alone. Though the veal is impeccable and the wine list could bankrupt a small nation, they come to be seen. To sit at tables where deals are made with handshakes and careers are destroyed with whispers. Frank Sinatra has a regular table here. So does Humphrey Bogart. Tonight, neither of them is present. Dean Martin sits alone near the back. He's dressed in a charcoal suit that fits him like it was sewn onto his body, which it probably was. His tie is loosened just enough to suggest he doesn't take himself too seriously, though everyone in this room knows better. At 40 years old, Dean has the kind of face that cameras love. Strong jaw, dark eyes that crinkle when he smiles, hair swept back with just the right amount of pomade. He's finished performing at the Sands in Las Vegas 3 nights ago. Tomorrow, he'll record another album. Tonight, he just wants a steak and some peace. The restaurant hums with a particular frequency of privilege. Silverware clinks against porcelain. Ice rattles in glasses of bourbon and scotch. A jazz quartet plays softly in the corner, their piano notes floating through conversations about box office numbers and contract negotiations. Nobody here worries about rent. Nobody here knows what it means to go hungry. Dean cuts into his filet mignon, chewing slowly, savoring the quiet. His fork pauses midway to his mouth. The room has changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, but the way a record changes when someone drags a needle across it. A subtle scratch that makes everyone look up. The girl, she can't be more than 7 years old, though hunger has a way of making children look smaller than they are. Her skin is dark against the restaurant's cream-colored walls. Her hair pulled back in braids that have started to come undone. The dress she wears might have been pretty once. Floral fabric with a Peter Pan collar, but now it hangs loose on her frame, stained with dirt and wear. Her feet are bare. Not the carefree barefoot of a child playing in summer grass, but the barefoot of someone who is nothing else. She stands just inside the doorway, blinking against the light. The conversations don't stop immediately. At first, only the people nearest the entrance notice her. A woman in pearls touches her husband's arm, nodding toward the door. A studio executive pauses mid-sentence, his brow furrowing. The maitre d', a thin man with a pencil mustache who takes a position very seriously, stiffens like he's been electrocuted. The girl doesn't seem to notice any of this. Her eyes scan the room with the practiced efficiency of someone who has learned to assess situations quickly. She's looking for something specific. Her gaze lands on Dean Martin. She walks toward him, not hesitantly, not with the shuffling uncertainty of a child who knows she doesn't belong. She walks with purpose, weaving between tables where men in $1,000 suits sit beside women draped in mink and diamonds. The conversations begin to falter now. Heads turn. Whispers start. Quiet at first, then building. The maitre d' hurries after her, his face reddening. "Young lady," he hisses. Try and keep his voice low enough that the patrons won't be disturbed. "You cannot be in here. This is a private establishment." The girl doesn't respond. She keeps walking. Dean sets down his fork. He's watching her now, his expression unreadable. The steak sits forgotten on his plate. She reaches his table and stops. Up close, her eyes are the thing that hits you. They're too knowing, too weary for someone who should still believe in fairy tales. These are eyes that have seen things children shouldn't see, that have learned lessons no school teaches. She holds a piece of cardboard in her hands, the kind that might have come from a box behind a grocery store. On it, Written in shaky letters of what looks like charcoal are 4 words. Can I eat with you? The restaurant has gone completely silent now. Even the jazz quartet has stopped playing, sensing the shift in the room's temperature. 60 people hold their breath, waiting to see what will happen next. Dean Martin looks at the sign, then at the girl, then back at the sign. Something passes across his face, something raw and unguarded that has nothing to do with the smooth persona he shows the world. For just a moment, the mask slips, and you can see the man underneath, the son of an Italian immigrant barber who grew up in Steubenville, Ohio, where poverty wasn't a distant concept but a daily reality. The kid who used to sing in speakeasies for spare change. The teenager who boxed on the name Kid Crochet because he needed the money. Dean knows what hunger looks like. He's worn it himself. The maitre d' arrives, breathless and mortified. He grabs the girl's arm, not roughly, but firmly enough to make his intentions clear. "I am so sorry, Mr. Martin," he says, his voice dripping with obsequious horror. "I don't know how she got past the door. I'll have her removed immediately. I've already called the police." "Don't." Dean's voice isn't loud. He doesn't raise it. He doesn't need to. It carries the kind of authority that comes from knowing exactly who you are. The maitre d' stops. I beg your pardon." Dean pushes back his chair and stands. At 6 feet tall, he has a presence that makes the room feel smaller. He looks at the girl, then at the maitre d', then at the crowd of diners who have turned in their seats to watch the spectacle. "She's with me," Dean says. The maitre d' blinks. "Sir, I don't think you understand. This is... she's with me." Dean repeats, and this time there's steel beneath the velvet. "Is that going to be a problem?" Around the room, the whispers intensify. A woman in a red dress leans toward her companion, her voice carrying farther than she intends. He can't be serious. A man in the corner shakes his head in disgust. Someone else mutters something about publicity stunts. The maitre d' looks like he might faint. His entire world is built on maintaining order, on keeping the wrong people out and the right people happy. This violates every principle he holds dear. "Mr. Martin, please," he says, lowering his voice. "Think about what you're doing. This establishment has certain standards we simply cannot." "Then I guess I'll take my business elsewhere." Dean pulls out the chair across from him. He looks at the girl and nods toward it. "You hungry?" he asks gently. She doesn't move immediately. She's learned not to trust kindness that comes too easily. But something in Dean's face, maybe the softness around his eyes, maybe the way he's looking at her like she's a person instead of a problem, makes her decide. She sits. The maitre d' opens his mouth, closes it, then opens it again. He looks around the restaurant as if searching for support, but finds only scandalized faces and averted gazes. Nobody wants to get involved. This is Dean Martin's mess to clean up. Finally, the maitre d' straightens his jacket and nods stiffly. "Very well, Mr. Martin," he says, his tone making it clear that this is anything but well. "I'll inform the kitchen." He stalks away, his back rigid with disapproval. Dean sits back down. He catches a waiter's eye and gestures him over. A different waiter, one who hasn't yet decided how to feel about this disruption. "What do you like?" Dean asks the girl. She stares at him like he's speaking a foreign language. "To eat," he clarifies. "What sounds good?" Her voice, when it comes, is so quiet he has to lean forward to hear it. "Anything." Dean nods. He looks up at the waiter, who stands frozen with his order pad, clearly uncertain whether he's allowed to serve this table. "Bring her what I'm having," Dean says, "and a glass of milk. Cold." The waiter hesitates for just a fraction of a second, long enough for Dean to notice, then nods and hurries away. The girl sits perfectly still in her chair, her hands folded in her lap. She looks at the white tablecloth, the silver cutlery, the crystal water glass like they're artifacts from another planet. She doesn't touch anything. Dean picks up his fork and continues eating his steak as if nothing unusual has happened, as if he invites barefoot children to dinner every night, as if the entire restaurant isn't watching them with a mixture of shock, disgust, and fascination. "What's your name?" he asks between bites. She looks up at him. studies his face like she's trying to solve a puzzle. Sarah, she says finally. Sarah, that's a good name. Dean takes a sip of wine. I'm Dean. I know who you are, she says, and there's something in the way she says it. Not starstruck, not impressed, just matter of fact. That makes him smile. Yeah, you a fan. She shakes her head. I saw your picture. Outside the movie theater on Broadway. Dean nods. His latest film opened 2 weeks ago. His face is plastered on billboards across Los Angeles. Did you see the movie? He asks. No. She says it simply, without embarrassment. I don't have money for movies. The waiter returns with her meal, a duplicate of Dean's plate, complete with filet mignon, roasted potatoes, and green beans glistening with butter. He sets it down carefully, along with a glass of milk, then retreats without a word. Sarah stares at the food. She doesn't move. Go ahead, Dean says gently. It's for you. She picks up her fork, slowly, like she's not sure she's allowed, and cuts a small piece of steak. When she puts it in her mouth, her eyes close, not in ecstasy exactly, but in something deeper. Relief, gratitude, the recognition that, at least for this moment, the gnawing emptiness in her stomach will be filled. She eats slowly at first, trying to maintain some semblance of table manners. But hunger is a powerful thing, and within minutes she's eating faster, her fork moving mechanically from plate to mouth, barely pausing to chew. Dean watches her without judgment. He's seen this before, the desperation that comes from not knowing where your next meal will be. He doesn't rush her, doesn't tell her to slow down, just lets her eat. Around them, the restaurant gradually returns to its normal rhythm. Conversations resume, though many eyes continue to dart toward Dean's table. The jazz quartet starts playing again, but the atmosphere has shifted. Something fundamental has changed, and everyone can feel it. When Sarah's plate is empty, scraped so clean it barely needs washing, she sets down her fork and reaches for the milk. She drinks it in long gulps, leaving a white mustache on her upper lip. Dean hands her his napkin. She wipes her mouth, then folds the napkin carefully and sets it beside her plate. Thank you, she whispers. You're welcome. There's a pause. Dean lights a cigarette, taking a long drag and exhaling slowly. The smoke drifts between them, forming temporary shapes before dissipating. Where are your parents, Sarah? He asks. The question hangs in the air. For a moment, he thinks she won't answer. Then she speaks, her voice flat and distant, like she's reciting facts about someone else's life. Mama died. There was a flood back in Mississippi. She traces a pattern on the tablecloth with her finger. The river came up real high, higher than anybody ever seen. It took our house. Mama was trying to save our things, and the water... She trails off. Dean's chest tightens. What about your father? He left. 3 syllables, delivered without inflection. After Mama died, he just left. Said he couldn't stay there anymore. Too many memories. She looks up at Dean. He told me to go to my aunt's house, but my aunt didn't want me, so I came here. To Los Angeles? She nods. I heard it was warm, and there were lots of people. I thought maybe... She doesn't finish the sentence. Doesn't need to. Dean stubs out his cigarette in the ashtray. How long have you been here? 3 weeks. Maybe 4. She shrugs. I sleep under the bridge. By the river. Jesus. Dean mutters. Then, catching himself, sorry. It's okay, Sarah says. I've heard worse. He believes her. The check arrives, delivered by the maitre d' himself, who places it on the table with the kind of precision usually reserved for defusing bombs. Dean doesn't look at it. He pulls out his wallet, extracts several bills, far more than the meal costs, and sets them on the leather folder. Keep the change, he says to the maitre d', whose expression suggests he'd rather burn the money than accept it. Dean stands. Sarah scrambles to her feet, uncertain what happens next. Come on, Dean says, gesturing toward the door. She follows him through the restaurant. The crowd parts automatically, creating a path. Dozens of eyes track their movement, some curious, some hostile, some carefully neutral. A photographer's flashbulb pops near the entrance, momentarily blinding them. Outside, the night air is cool and perfumed with jasmine. Dean's car, a gleaming Cadillac the color of midnight, sits at the curb. His driver, a middle-aged man named Tommy who's worked for Dean for 5 years, opens the back door when he sees him approaching. Tommy's eyes widen when he sees Sarah, but he doesn't comment. He's worked in Hollywood long enough to know that asking questions is a good way to lose a good job. Home. Dean tells him as they slide into the leather seats. Yes, sir, Tommy says, closing the door. The car pulls away from the curb, leaving the Villa Capri behind. Through the rear window, Dean can see people gathered on the sidewalk, watching them go. Tomorrow, the gossip columnist will have a field day. By Monday, his agent will be fielding calls from outraged civic groups and concerned studio executives. Dean doesn't care about any of that right now. He looks at Sarah, who sits rigidly beside him, her hands gripping the edge of the seat, like she's afraid the car might disappear if she lets go. You ever been to Beverly Hills? He asks. She shakes her head. Well, Dean says, settling back against the seat, you're about to. Act 2, the breaking storm. The Cadillac winds through streets that grow progressively quieter and more opulent. The neon chaos of Sunset Boulevard gives way to tree-lined avenues where houses hide behind gates and hedges. Street lamps cast pools of amber light at regular intervals, illuminating manicured lawns and flower beds that will never know a weed. Sarah presses her nose against a window, watching the scenery change. She's never seen houses this big. Back in Mississippi, she lived in a 2-room shack that flooded every spring. Here, the homes look like palaces, sprawling estates with fountains and swimming pools, and enough rooms to house a dozen families. The car turns into a circular driveway and stops in front of a Spanish colonial revival mansion. White stucco walls, terracotta roof tiles, arched doorways. The whole place looks like it was transported from somewhere exotic and planted in California soil. Tommy opens the door. Dean steps out first, then offers his hand to Sarah. She takes it, her small fingers disappearing into his palm. The front door opens before they reach it. A woman in her 50s appears, her gray hair pulled into a bun, her expression shifting from mild curiosity to sharp concern when she sees Sarah. Mr. Martin, she says, her slight Irish accent coloring the words. I wasn't expecting you back tonight. Plans change, Mrs. O'Brien. Dean gestures to Sarah. This is Sarah. She's will be staying with us for a while. Mrs. O'Brien, Dean's housekeeper, is a woman who has weathered many surprises in her life. She fled Ireland during the Troubles, raised 3 children while working 2 jobs, and buried a husband who drank himself to death. Very little shocks her anymore, but this comes close. Still, her face reveals nothing but professional courtesy. Of course, sir. Shall I prepare the guest room? Please. And see if you can find some clothes that might fit her. Something for tonight, at least. We'll get proper things tomorrow. Right away, sir. Mrs. O'Brien looks at Sarah, and something softens in her expression. Come with me, child. Let's get you cleaned up. Sarah glances at Dean, seeking permission. He nods encouragingly. Go on. Mrs. O'Brien will take good care of you. Sarah follows the housekeeper inside. Dean watches him disappear down a hallway, then heads to his study, a wood panel room lined with books he's never read and awards he doesn't display anywhere else. He pours himself 3 fingers of scotch and sits behind his desk. The phone rings before he can take a sip. Martin Residence. He answers. Dean. It's Jerry. Jerry Lewis, Dean's former partner. The other half of the comedy duo that dominated Hollywood for a decade before they split. Professionally and personally, 3 years ago. They haven't spoken in months. The fact that Jerry is calling now means word has already spread. Jerry. Dean says neutrally, is it true? Jerry asks. No preamble. No small talk. Did you really bring a colored kid to the Villa Capri? Dean's jaw tightens. Her name is Sarah. Jesus Christ, Dean. Jerry's voice carries a mixture of exasperation and concern. Do you have any idea what you've done? The phones at Paramount have been ringing off the hook. Hedda Hopper is already writing her column. By tomorrow morning, every paper in America will have a story. Good. Dean says, Maybe somebody will read it who can actually help. Help? Dean, you're not helping anybody. Jerry pauses, choosing his words carefully. Look, I know you've got a big heart. I know you want to do the right thing. But there are organizations for this. Charities. Proper channels. You can't just adopt street kids. I'm not adopting her, Dean says, though even as the words leave his mouth, he's not entirely sure that's true. I'm giving her a place to stay until we figure things out. And what happens then? What happens when the studio finds out you're housing a minor without any legal authority? What happens when her parents show up demanding money? Dean, this will destroy you. Then it destroys me. The silence on the other end of the line stretches long enough that Dean wonders if Jerry is hung up. Finally, you're serious. As a heart attack. Jerry sighs. Okay. Then at least let me help you do this right. I'll get my lawyer to draw up papers. We need to contact child services. Make sure everything is legal. If you're going to do this, we do it properly. Something loosens in Dean's chest. Whatever bitterness remains between them. Jerry is still his friend when it matters. Thanks, Don't thank me yet. This is going to be a shitstorm. But, another pause. But you're doing something good. Stupid, but good. They hang up. Dean drinks his scotch, feeling its warm spread through his chest. The phone rings again. Then again, his agent, his publicist, a reporter from the Times who somehow got his private number. Dean ignores them all, letting them roll to Mrs. O'Brien, who fields each call with practiced efficiency. Upstairs, Sarah stands in the largest bathroom she's ever seen. Mrs. O'Brien has drawn her a bath, actual hot water, scented with lavender, and laid out a towel so fluffy it feels like touching a cloud. Take your time, dear, Mrs. O'Brien says gently. I'll be just outside if you need anything. Sarah waits until the door closes before undressing. She catches sight of herself in the mirror, ribs showing, skin marked with bruises and scrapes, hair tangled and dull. She looks like a ghost of herself. She steps into the tub and sinks beneath the water. For the first time in months, she allows herself to cry. The tears come silently, mixing with the bath water, washing away the accumulated grief and fear and exhaustion. She cries for her mother, swept away by brown water. She cries for her father, who couldn't bear to look at her because she had her mother's eyes. She cries for herself, 7 years old and utterly alone in a world that wasn't designed for children like her. The water turns gray with dirt. She scrubs her skin until it's pink, washes her hair 3 times, stays in the tub until the water goes lukewarm. When she finally emerges, wrapped in a fluffy towel, Mrs. O'Brien is waiting with nightgown, white cotton, far too large, but soft and clean. She helps Sarah into it, then gently combs the tangles from her hair. There now, Mrs. O'Brien murmurs. Much better. She leads Sarah to the guest room, a space painted pale yellow with a 4-poster bed that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale. The sheets are crisp and white. There's a lamp on the nightstand that casts warm light across the room. Sarah climbs into bed. The mattress is so soft she sinks into it, and for a panic moment, she wonders if she'll disappear completely. Will you be comfortable here? Mrs. O'Brien asks. Sarah nods, not trusting her voice. Mr. Martin is a good man, Mrs. O'Brien says quietly. Whatever happens, you remember that there's goodness in this house. She turns off the light and closes the door, leaving Sarah alone in the darkness. Sarah lies still, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house settling around her. She slept in doorways and under bridges, in abandoned buildings and bus station benches. She's learned to sleep light, to wake at the slightest disturbance, to always be ready to run. But tonight, in this soft bed in this quiet house, she allows herself something she hasn't dared in months. She allows herself to hope. Act 3, The Reckoning. Morning comes with sunshine and the smell of coffee. Dean wakes in his own bed, momentarily disoriented by the events of the previous night. For a few seconds, he wonders if he dreamed the whole thing. Then he hears voices downstairs, Mrs. O'Brien's low murmur and a higher, younger voice responding. Not a dream. He showers, shaves, dresses in slacks and a button-down shirt. When he comes downstairs, he finds Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, drowning in one of Mrs. O'Brien's old dresses that's been hastily altered. She's eating scrambled eggs and toast with the same focus intensity she brought to last night's steak. Morning, Dean says. She looks up, startled. Good morning. Mrs. O'Brien pours Dean a cup of coffee. I've made a list of things a child will need, sir. Proper clothing, shoes, toiletries. There's a children's shop on Rodeo Drive. The doorbell rings. All three of them freeze. Mrs. O'Brien glances at Dean, who nods. She disappears toward the front of the house. Moments later, she returns looking pale. Sir, there are reporters, quite a few of them, with cameras. Dean sets down his coffee cup. How many is quite a few? 20, maybe 30. He walks to the window and peeks through the curtain. Sure enough, his circular driveway has been transformed into a media circus. Reporters with notepads, photographers with flashbulbs, even a newsreel camera. They're camped on his lawn like an invading army. Christ, he mutters. The phone starts ringing. Mrs. O'Brien picks up, listens for a moment, then covers a mouthpiece. It's Mr. Feld from the studio, sir. He says it's urgent. Dean takes the phone. Good morning, Herman. Herman Feld, head of publicity at Capitol Records, does not sound pleased. Dean, we need to talk. Now, my office, 30 minutes. I'm a little busy. This isn't a request. You've created a situation, and we need to manage it before it gets out of hand. 30 minutes. The line goes dead. Dean hangs up and looks at Sarah, who has stopped eating and is watching with worried eyes. I have to go out for a bit, he tells her. You'll stay here with Mrs. O'Brien. Don't answer the door. Don't go outside. Understand? She nods. I'll be back as soon as I can. Getting past the reporters requires strategy. Tommy brings a Cadillac around the back entrance. Dean slips out through the kitchen, hunched low in the back seat as Tommy guns the engine and barrels through the crowd. Flashbulbs pop. Reporters shout questions. A few chase the car on foot before giving up. Capitol Records offices occupy a building that looks like a stack of records. 13 stories of circular architecture that's become an LA landmark. Dean takes the elevator to the top floor, where Herman Feld's office offers a panoramic view of the city. Herman is waiting with two other men. Martin Ratkin, a producer who's worked with Dean on 3 pictures, and Walter Kane, a lawyer whose specialty is making problems disappear. Sit down, Herman says. It's not an invitation. Dean sits. Okay, Herman begins, pacing behind his desk. Let's talk about what you've done. In one evening, you've managed to create a publicity nightmare that threatens not only your career, but the studio's reputation. The NAACP is calling our office, demanding to know your intentions. The White Citizens Council is threatening boycotts. Every gossip columnist in America wants an exclusive. So, he stops pacing and stares at Dean. What the hell were you thinking? I saw a hungry kid. Dean says simply, I fed her. You did more than feed her, Dean. You brought her home. You kept her overnight, without parental consent, without legal authority. Walter Kane leans forward. Do you understand the liability you've exposed yourself to? If something happens to that child while she's in your care, nothing is going to happen to her. You don't know that, Martin Ratkin interjects. And more to the point, you don't know anything about her, where she came from, who she is. For all you know, she's part of some elaborate scam. She's 7 years old and homeless. Dean snaps. What kind of scam could she possibly be running? That's not the point, Herman says. The point is optics. The point is that you're one of the biggest stars in the country, and you've just aligned yourself with a cause that half of America considers controversial at best and communistic at worst. I didn't align myself with a cause. I helped a kid. In 1957 Los Angeles, that's the same thing. Herman sits down heavily. Look, Dean, I'm not saying you're wrong to want to help. I'm saying there are ways to do this that don't involve national headlines and death threats. Death threats. Walter Kane nods grimly. 3 so far this morning. All promising violence if you don't return that N, he catches himself. If you don't return the child to wherever she came from, The room goes quiet. Finally, Dean speaks. "What do you want me to do?" "We want you to let us handle this," Herman says. "We'll contact the appropriate authorities. Find a nice foster home. Make a generous donation to a children's charity in your name. Turn this into a positive story about your philanthropy instead of a controversy about race and class." And what happens to Sarah? She gets placed in a good home, gets the help she needs. Professional help, Dean. People are trained for this. Dean stands and walks to the window. Below, Los Angeles spreads out like a glittering promise. Somewhere down there, Sarah is sitting in his kitchen, probably wondering if he's coming back. "No," he says. "Dean." Herman starts. "No." Dean repeats, turning to face them. "I appreciate what you're trying to do. I understand the risks. But I'm not handing her over to some system that'll just shuffle her from one home to another until she's 18 and gets kicked out to fend for herself." He looks each man in the eye. "She stays with me. We do this legally, properly, but she stays." The three men exchange glances. Some silent communication passes between them. "All right," Walter Kane says finally. "If you're determined to do this, we'll need to move fast. File emergency custody papers. Get ahead of any potential claims from family members. It's going to be expensive and it's going to be messy." "I don't care about expensive, and I'm used to messy." Herman sighs. Okay, we'll make this work. But Dean, you're going to catch hell for this. From the press, from the public, maybe even from your fans. Then I'll catch hell. Act 4, the choice. The legal process unfolds with surprising speed, greased by money and influence. Walter Kane pulls strings. Judges are consulted. Emergency hearings are scheduled. Within 48 hours, Dean has temporary guardianship. But the real challenge comes 3 weeks later. Sarah's father appears. His name is Robert Johnson, and he arrives at Dean's door looking like a man who's been hollowed out and put back together wrong. His suit is cheap and ill-fitting. His eyes are bloodshot. He reeks of whiskey and desperation. "I'm here for my daughter," he announces when Dean opens the door. Dean studies him, sees a resemblance immediately. Sarah has his nose, his cheekbones. "Mr. Johnson," Dean says carefully, "why don't you come inside?" They sit in Dean's living room. Mrs. O'Brien brings coffee that Robert doesn't touch. Upstairs, Sarah hides in her room, having glimpsed her father through the window. "You had no right," Robert says. His hands shake. "You had no right to take my child." "I didn't take her. She was living under a bridge. Starving." "That's not." Robert's voice cracks. "I was going to come back for her. I just needed time to get myself together." "How much time?" "That's none of your damn business." Robert's anger flares, then collapses. "Look, I know I made mistakes. I know I left her when I shouldn't have. But she's my daughter. My blood. You can't just swoop in and play hero." "I'm not playing anything," Dean says quietly. "I'm trying to give her a stable home." "I can give her a home." "Can you?" Dean leans forward. "Can you really? Or are you here because your lawyer told you there might be money in it?" Robert's face flushes. "How dare you?" "I'm not judging you, Mr. Johnson. I can't imagine what you've been through. Losing your wife, raising a daughter alone in a world that's stacked against you. But that doesn't change the fact that Sarah needs someone who can be there for her every day, not just when it's convenient. And you think that's you? Some rich white singer who'll get B.